Hi, I'm Stephanie Jaworski of joyofbaking.com. Today we're going to make cake donuts. And as you can see here, there's quite a few different ways you can serve them. You can serve them plain, dusted with powdered sugar, or my favorite way is dipped in a chocolate glaze. So a cake donut is what it says. It is made with a cake-like batter, and it gets its rise from baking powder, not from yeast. If you want a yeast-raised donut, there is a recipe along with the video on the site. To make the batter, if you have an electric stand mixer like I have here, use a paddle attachment, or you could just use a hand mixer. And we're going to start with 2 large eggs and have those at room temperature. Those in there, along with 2/3 of a cup, that's 165 grams of granulated white sugar. And then what we're going to do is beat these 2 ingredients on medium-high speed until they're really thick and a pale yellow color. And that will take, like with my mixer, it takes about 5 minutes. Okay, as you can see, this is what you're looking for. It's like very pale yellow and quite thick. So just scrape down. And then we're going to add in 1.5 teaspoons of pure vanilla extract. Just beat that in. Okay. So now for our dry ingredients. In a separate bowl, I have 3 cups, that's 390 grams of all-purpose flour. You may know that as plain flour. And to that, we're going to add 3 teaspoons of baking powder, 1/2 teaspoon of salt. I like to use the kosher salt. And then if you've ever bought a cake donut, you know that they have this distinct flavor, and that flavor comes from nutmeg. So I am going to add 3/4 teaspoon of freshly grated nutmeg. Now, freshly grated, that means you can buy, usually just in the spice section of your grocery store, whole nutmegs. And that's what I like to use, and then just use some kind of fine grater, and then you just grate it like that. Now, if you don't have, or you can't find this, you could just use the ground nutmeg, but I would probably use half the amount because it's a lot more concentrated than the freshly grated. So then I'm just going to use a wire whisk all that together. And then we will also need 1/2 cup, 120 milliliters of milk. I'm using whole milk. You could use a reduced fat, like 2%. Of course, if you use the full fat, you'll get a richer flavored donut than if you use a reduced fat. And then you will also need 3 tablespoons, 40 grams of melted butter. And let that cool just a little to lukewarm. You don't want to put it hot into the batter. So now what I'm going to do is add the flour in 3 additions, alternating that in 2 additions with the milk and the butter. So you don't want to add it all at once because it would take too long to mix, and plus it kind of flies up in your face. So that's why we're doing it in 3. So just beat that in. And then when it's all moistened, then I'm going to add about half of the milk. Just eyeball that, and half of the butter. Just have your mixer on low speed and just beat that in. Okay, everything looks moist, so then a little more flour. Pretty simple here. Beat that in. Okay, and then the rest of my milk and the rest of the butter. And the final is the rest of the flour here. Just going to give this a quick scrape down, make sure everything's mixed in. Now we just want to beat until the flour is all mixed in. You don't want to beat it too long. Really smell that nutmeg. Okay, so now I'm just going to give this a quick stir, make sure all that flour. Now, as you can see, this is like a really thick cake batter. Now we have to roll this out, and this is a little too sticky right now to do that. So what I'm going to do is just cover it with a piece of plastic wrap, like so. And I'm just gonna let it sit on the counter for maybe somewhere between 20, 30 minutes, depending on how hot your kitchen is, just until it gets a little firmer, not so sticky. So we're now ready to roll out our batter. Okay, just take your plastic wrap off. As you can see, I mean, it's still soft, but it's not really sticky. That's what you're looking for. So you will need a generous amount of flour on your surface. And then don't worry if it's a little sticky. You'll just add more flour. So, and have a baking sheet nearby, and then just dust the bottom with some flour, because once we're going to put the donuts on here and we don't want them to stick. I put a piece of parchment paper down. You don't have to do that. So just so, and then, like I said, keep your surface well floured. And then with the rolling pin, we're just going to roll our dough to about 1/4 inch, 1/2 centimeter. You can see this is beautiful, nice and soft. It's beautiful. I always just run my hand over. I can kind of tell then if there's a certain part that's thicker than the other. Now, you can buy donut cutters. I don't bother. I just use 2 round. I'm using about a 3-inch, 7 centimeter, and then a smaller one. And just cut, like so. And just cut out the center. And there you have it. If you want, you can keep the donut holes and fry those. Or you can just, once we've cut out all this, we can gather them up, all the scraps, and just keep cutting out. Okay, so there we have it. So now, we're just going to let those sit while we heat our oil. If you have a small deep fryer like I have here, fill it with the amount of oil per manufacturer instructions. If not, use a large saucepan with a lid and fill it with about 2 inches of oil. That's about 5 centimeters. You want to use a flavorless oil. I'm using canola. You could use corn, vegetable, safflower, or some people even use peanut oil. And you want to heat your oil to 375 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 190 degrees Celsius. That will take, 20, 30 minutes. And have a candy thermometer. That's a good way of measuring the temperature of your oil. Okay, so now we're ready to fry our donuts. Now, when you're working with hot oil, never leave it unattended. Have a fire extinguisher handy and also a bowl of ice water just in case you burn yourself. So we're going to start. And just place. Depending on the size of your deep fryer or saucepan, I'm going to do 2 at a time. You may be able to do more than that. And then just, of course, gently put it in the hot oil. And it will sink to the bottom and then slowly rise up. Now you can use different things to, with your donuts, you can use like tongs, slotted spoon, or even like a chopstick. Now I like to do it till you can start to see on the inside ring of the donut, it getting golden brown up the sides. That maybe takes, depending, maybe about a minute, depending on how thick you rolled out your donuts. Okay, so that looks good. You want to make sure they're golden brown on the underside, and then just flip it over. You can see that's what you're looking for. And then just do the other side until it's golden brown. And then have some paper towel ready. Okay, I think that's about ready. Just gently lift it up. Just kind of hold it for a second to get rid of any of the hot oil drip off. And then what I do is put it in a paper towel and then just kind of fold it over so it absorbs the fat. If you have your oil at the right temperature, then actually your donut does not absorb very much oil. It's when it's when your oil is not hot enough, then what happens is you put the donut in and it will absorb. Conversely, if it's too hot, what happens is the outside fries too fast and then the inside is kind of underdone. So there you have it, our donuts. Okay, so now in between batches, what I like to do is let the oil heat up again, because as soon as you put donuts in, it kind of drops the temperature. And I'm just going to keep frying the donuts, and when I come back, I'll show you how to make a chocolate glaze. So now for our chocolate glaze. In a heat-proof bowl, put 4 ounces, 115 grams of just either a semi-sweet or a bittersweet chocolate, finely chopped. And to that, so what you're going to have to do is heat a half a cup, 120 milliliters of half and half cream, which is cream with about a 12% butterfat content. You may know that as a light cream, along with 1 tablespoon, 12 grams of butter. And just bring that up just to a simmer and pour that over the top. It's going to melt our chocolate. And just gently with the wire whisk, stir that. You don't have to use like a really good chocolate here. Just an average quality. It's fine because you got the donut and you can probably put sprinkles and stuff. So save the good stuff for something else. Okay, and you want nice and melted. And then what we're going to add is a half a teaspoon of pure vanilla extract. And then what we're going to do is add 2 cups, that's 240 grams of confectioner sugar. You may know that as either powdered or icing sugar, and sift that to get rid of any lumps. And I'm just going to add a bit and just whisk it in. I want that sugar to melt into the chocolate. Now you want your donuts cooled to room temperature. You don't want to dip a hot donut in the glaze, just melt. Now, if you're going to dip all of your donuts in the chocolate glaze, I would make the full recipe like I'm doing here. Normally, I just make like half because sometimes I like to just leave them plain. They're excellent, especially out of the deep fryer. You really don't need any sugar or glaze or anything. They're just excellent as is. And then, okay, that looks good. You can also just take some powdered sugar and just sift it over the top like that. That's also very good. Or you could use granulated white sugar as well, maybe mixed with a little ground cinnamon if you'd like that. If you find this really, you can strain it if you want to get it really smooth. Okay, so really essentially that's your chocolate glaze. And now, like I said, a cool donut. Just take it and just dip it in there. Just let it kind of, now I usually double dip because I kind of like the chocolate glaze, so I want lots. And just let it kind of run off, and there you have your chocolate glaze. Now, you can just leave it like that, or, especially the kids, they like the sprinkles, like so. Or I have some chocolate jimmies, those are really good. My personal favorite is the coconut. I just love that combination. So you just kind of mix it if you want. Now, freshly made, of course, they're excellent. But if you're going to put the chocolate glaze on them, I'm going to dip one in and put coconut because that's the one I want to try. Actually, if you're dipping them in the chocolate glaze, they're really good. It's stored like a couple of days because then the crust, like initially the crust is quite crisp, but when you store them overnight, that crust softens and the flavors kind of blend. You really start to taste that nutmeg. So I'm going to put, since this is the one I want to try, it's my favorite. Okay. Break this in half. So as you can see, lovely cake donut inside. Okay. That's really good. Nice crisp outside crust. Got the chocolate glaze, the coconut. I mean, fantastic. These look just as good to me as what you buy in a bakery, so have fun with it. Like I said, covered, stored quite a few days. So until next time, I'm Stephanie Jaworski of joybaking.com.